Hello and welcome back to Sam Explains the World. I'm your host, Samantha Bremenkamp, and Snip Hooray is the name of the game for this episode where I'm going to teach you how to be a mad Sam scientist pollinating your own plants, what to do with that time-honored tradition of absolutely forgetting that there's a garlic clove somewhere or an onion or a potato and it starts to grow, and utilizing that momentum to create brand new plants for yourself, and going out into the garden to tackle an old lavender plant that needs to be cleaned up to get the airflow going, but then taking these cuttings, using rooting hormone, and growing endless brand new plants. This and more on today's episode, so sit back, relax, get some really great snacks, snuggle up with a loved one, and get ready to hopefully learn something, and at the very least learn what not to do based on what I'm doing with my life and in this episode. Really excited to share with you something I learned more recently than not, which will blow your mind if you're into gardening and you're nerds like me. And if you are, you're amazing. And if you're not, you're still cool. Okay. You're not going to believe this, but because I grew things too early, they started to blossom. And there were no pollinators to pollinate, to share between the male and female blossoms. How can you tell which is which? The female blossom is attached to a fruit that's going to grow into whatever, a zucchini, a cucumber, a pumpkin, radish, what have you. And the male blossom has a long stem to try to get it out as far as possible to attract a pollinator. Now, just like in a lot of nature, you need the powers of the male and female blossoms to combine to grow your fruit or vegetable to completion in order for you to harvest it. So here's one such thing. If you, like me, have started seeds a little too early and they're blossoming and there's not pollinators yet, or it's getting too cold out at night, so you have to keep bringing them in and out, there's a way you can bypass nature in a way. And that's by snipping off the male blossoms and putting them in a baggie in the freezer. I'm not even kidding. I've been doing this all season while having grown things from seed inside. You can tell these are giant blossoms. These come from the Cinderella pumpkin, and they're the male blossom because they have the long stem and no fruit. I put the date just to be helpful for me. But I have different varieties. The first ones I started getting were, of course, the early prolific yellow squash, which are so delicious to grow. And I snipped and have been saving all the male flowers for when the time is right. And how would you know when the time is right? Because female blossoms start to grow. And you can tell because on the end of their flower is the beginning of a fruit or vegetable that's going to be growing into, hopefully, adulthood with your help. Obviously, pollinators are the first choice. However, with weather being wacky and sometimes pollinators not being around, you have to step in and be the mother plant to your little plant babies. You take out the male blossom that you've previously frozen. It'll take no time at all, by the way, for it to defrost. You carefully peel back the petals and you just keep the center part, which the pollen lives on the end of the stamen. So you take that part and it's like your little pollinator paintbrush. And when a female blossom for that, you can't really mix and match. You want the pollen from the plant that you're trying to get to grow the fruit or vegetable to go along with the male to the female. And you go into the little cute female blossom and you tickle the inside with the pollen on the end of the stamen of the male blossom that you'd frozen. I know it sounds crazy, but A, it's super easy, and B, it's going to save you a lot of heartache because there's nothing worse than doing everything that you think you're doing for the garden and then watching this fruit or vegetable baby grow, and then turn yellow, brown, and then fall off the plant. Heartbreaking. This is one way that you can prevent that and kind of circumnavigate nature who, you know, can be unforgiving and give us weird weather or hide pollinators or what have you. But it's amazing. So super easy. You're not hurting the plant by doing it, and you're giving it a really, really great opportunity to actually produce the fruit or vegetable that you were hoping to. Highly, highly recommend that. Really fun, really quick sampling. I do not have the female blossoms yet, so it's going to go back in the freezer until the time is right. It's really fun when you learn things like this and you're like, really? And it works, and there is nothing you can't do. Okay. Another thing, I have spring ranunculus corms. Ranunculus, no, you're ranunculus. Really fun word to say, really beautiful flower. And the corms, if you're not really sure, this is what a corm looks like. I'll put it on my black shirt so you can see it better. Teeny tiny. Obviously, things like peonies have bigger corms. But for these super fun ranunculus flowers, which are gorgeous, you soak the corms for about 2 to 3 hours. Not more than that because you don't want to drown them. And then I'm going to be now like direct sowing these because the danger of frost is gone out into some container pots outside because I want to give these guys the best chance. They can go directly in the ground, but I'm just getting used to this new yard and the sun. So I will be putting them in planters because I have control issues, but also so that I can move it around to follow the sun. It's really awesome if you find anything like a skateboard or whatever with wheels that you can put the planter on. For all my homies who are my age or older who are still skateboarding, good for you, but don't forget we're playing for keeps. And for those who have kids that have grown up, check, all the stuff that you're storing for them. I'm sure you could find at least something like a skateboard or something with wheels that you can reuse for the garden. I'm sure they won't mind. So now we have all of these ranunculus corms, and I'm going to be planting them only about 2 inches in the soil. And you're going to point them like little fingers down because all of that will root and the plant shoots up from the top part and grows into magnificent ranunculus flowers, which I cannot wait to show you later in the season when they have grown and blossomed. Worms are really cool. Don't get nervous about them looking super weird. They're really easy to do. And if you live in an area that might have a harsh winter and you have something that grows with corms that you're not able to overwinter outside, they're super easy to take out of the dirt and dry store in a cool, dry place like a good basement or a closet or what have you that would work for these. Really, really fun. Another way that you might be getting plants or growing plants that isn't a corm, but looks like a dirt mess of netting, mesh netting of roots. These will be, I know, you're like, are you sure it's going to be something? It is. Creeping phlox, which I'm going to put across the front bank to go over the stone wall, which will be awesome. And those are a really easy, beautiful ground cover that grows like a thick blanket of flowers this time of year, and it's the best. Low maintenance for your yard. Drought tolerant. You really don't have to do much with these. Obviously, when you first plant them, very shallow, just like a light dusting of dirt on top. In the places that they are going to stay forever, you're going to want to keep it moist. You can use a spritzer bottle, or you can use a hose. Just make sure that you keep it wet for the first like few weeks until it starts to really establish itself and looks like an actual plant and not just like someone pulled a fast one on you and got you to buy a bunch of old dead roots, which this isn't. I've soaked these for about an hour, and then we had all these cold nights come in, so I didn't get to plant it outside. So I've just been maintaining it. by spritzing it like a crazy person, just to have it keep its moisture to get ready to go out to its forever homes. Really easy, really great. Um, it's great for pollinators too because it's a bunch of flowers and it takes way less work and looks much better than grass. I know how people feel about their grass. I'm not trying to come at you and tell you to dig it all up. However, creeping phlox is amazing and gorgeous and really brings your happiness forward after a harsh winter every spring. A suggestion for you guys. And this beautiful plant, if you're like, ooh, what's that gorgeous thing? This is a gorgeous begonia that I got while visiting family to celebrate someone's very special first communion, which was super cute. And we got to take home the centerpieces, which is the nicest, best thing for a plant loving person like me. Just wanted to show you a quick corm update. Now, I know they didn't look like much, and you probably didn't really believe they would grow or not, and honestly, you never know until they start to do it, but let me just show you. Here they are, beautiful corms growing all around this butterfly bush that I picked up from Glicks over in Olay, which is a really great plant nursery with really good prices. And no, they're not sponsoring me yet, but I highly recommend them. And anyway, there's nothing more fun than being able to make things come to life, like something as random looking as a corm. So these are the ranunculus, and I can't wait. I'll show you, of course, an update when they finally flower, but it was super easy. Just kept checking on them every day to make sure they were still there and that nobody ate them, and waited patiently, which is tough for me, but it's going to be super worth it, and you'll see. Oh, hey, friends. On this Sam Explains the World quick tip, I'm going to share more with you about propagating something like this huge, delicious lavender bush. Taking regular scissors, or if you have fancy garden clippers, cool, or these, whatever, it works. I'm going to cut the bottom of this to give it new life. This is now this beautiful lavender hedge that has been neglected, and it needs help. So I'm going to lighten it up by trimming around the base of it to give it airflow and to put all the energy up to the new growths, which is very important. So you're going to do this with me, which is very exciting. Okay, let me show you what I mean. If you notice, underneath this beautiful established lavender plant, there's a lot of dead. Oh, hello, bae. So I'm going to continue snipping all this dead stuff, but the good news is I'm going to then propagate by taking the parts that are still very healthy, and you know how to do it because I showed you. We're going to snip off these growths. We're going to add the rooting hormone, stick them in soil that's nice and moist, and we're going to grow endless new lavender plants, which is awesome. With a little patience and determination, you can take one plant and make it endless plants. It's super easy and it smells so good. And the whole goal for me is to spread this lavender all over the yard because it is a great repellent for mosquitoes, and it smells really good, and it gets really pretty with the flowers when they're in bloom. So it is super easy. And let me just show you again. This is part of the old lavender. You'll note that because it's been like kind of dense and never pruned or trimmed to get the airflow, it's kind of dead on the inside. But there are new growths, so it's not a total waste. It's really important to always like prune your plants so that they get enough airflow and it can force all that energy into new growths. But you can also propagate everything so you don't feel like you're being a monster by slaughtering down the under part of your lavender tree or whatever plant it is that you are needing to get a haircut to. Super easy. Already trimmed it. We're just going to pull the bottom leaves. They smell really good, so you could totally utilize them. Put them in one of those little jewelry pouches and keep it under your pillow or whatever, or just like that because it's nature, so it's going to add great fertilizer. That's it. Now it's stripped. I'm going to dunk it in water, like I've shown you, put it in the rooting hormone, which is super easy, and just sticking it into really good soil. I will keep it inside until the roots really start to grow, but I'm going to show you because I have a few of these that I did over winter when I realized that this really awesome hedge of lavender could use a little help. But oh God, lavender is one of my favorites, nature's favorites, except for mosquitoes. And if you know me, you know how much I dislike mosquitoes, which I think is most people, except for those who study them. PH people, you're awesome. Do your studies. The rest of us, let's try to keep them away from us. One of my absolute favorite things to do in the garden is to propagate. You got to keep it propagated, which means I'm taking already established plants and I am clipping off pieces of it to create brand new plants from it. One such thing that I'm obsessed with, which is really good for your garden, and mosquitoes absolutely hate it, lavender. We have a very established, huge lavender hedge that you can tell. It has like it's been around, old school woody parts, and really reminds me of a bonsai more than a lavender plant. This one had never really been pruned or taken care of, which you kind of need to do for the upkeep of your plants. So I got in there and I cut away all of the dying parts of the bottom. But even those parts had new growths springing off of them, and I hate to waste things and I love to create more new plants. So first I cut off all the parts that were the new growth, and I also cut off parts that I just tied together and have hung around different parts of the house because dry lavender smells amazing, as does live lavender. And it's super easy. So all you have to do is look at a part that's like a newer growth. You're going to clip it with scissors or be a brute like me. Sometimes it has a foot left over, which is what the gardeners call this part, little bottom part, and that's totally cool. You can leave that on. If the leaves go all the way to that part, you're gonna like tear off the bottom, I don't know, half dozen or so. You can keep those and just keep them in your pocket and smell it for no reason, or you can get rid of it and throw it in the garden. But once you have your new growth that you're wanting to propagate and make into its own lavender plant, you will take rooting hormone, the kind that I found. You're going to dip the bottom and the foot into water, just plain water. You're going to stick it in the rooting hormone, cover it nicely with the powder, and then you're going to take whatever kind of container. I'll show you a bunch of the recycled containers that I use first, including this one, by the way. And you're going to just directly stick this into the dirt. And make sure the dirt is moist and that you water this a little bit. Well, I'm just going to spritz it right now because that's what I had next to me. And then you leave it. You don't put it in a window or anything. And then all of a sudden, you have multiple lavender plants sprouting out. These were old yogurt containers, as you can tell, because you're able to read. And just look how healthy this lavender is. I have had these sitting in a table inside in the living room, like not near a window or anything. And they're so happy. I make sure that I water the dirt to make sure that the moisture level remains the same so that the roots that are going to start to form thanks to the rooting hormone continue to develop and are able to access water to drink, which is very important. You keep them in here for a long time. I say a few weeks. You can check by pulling out one of them to see if roots have formed, but really only if you're ready to plant it and transplant it outside. Since these plants came from an outside plant, you don't really need to harden them off because that's how they've been living forever. But you want to find your next home for each of these because of how much I hate mosquitoes, and so I'm sure you do as well, as does my partner. we are going to go full force by putting tons of lavender and other things all throughout, surrounding our house, inside, and in planters on the deck as well. The more the merrier, I feel, for lavender, which is a woody plant like rosemary. And the smell is just amazing. And yes, you can do things like cook with it, or just make those really fun pouches to squeeze so you just get the smell and make them gifts. I could take all of these new, completely by themselves lavender plants, put them in a cute little cup, and give it away as party favors at my birthday party or whatever. Or I can plant all of them, which is probably what's going to happen. But it's super easy and fun. And that way you feel less sad when you're cutting off parts of a plant. Instead of just wasting it, something like lavender, which you would never want to waste, you can instead be a plant god and make new, super healthy, fun lavender plants, or whatever it is you're propagating. No, not everything can be propagated, but a lot can. And once you get the hang of it, you become a little obsessed with seeing what else can I propagate? How many more of these can I do? And until you've run out of room, why stop? And if you don't have any money and want to be able to give gifts and you already have a lavender plant, do this. What a great gift. People will love it. You can do it. I can do it. Rooting hormone makes a difference. Super easy. So from snipping lavender outside from an already established plant, dipping it in rooting hormone after putting it in water first, and then just sticking it in dirt. So let's see. These still look super healthy. I did this months ago, but let me check. An easy way to tell is if you pull the plant out and you see that it has roots. So it's ready. I'm not going to yet plant them in the ground. I want them to get stronger and bigger. So I'm going to now check each of these and give them their own recyclable pots that are going to be about this big, but per thing, so that it has the ability to really, really root and to get used to the elements once again, so it can go outside to its forever resting place all over the yard. I will keep a few in pots and I will bring them inside when the temps drop again, just to see, because their parent plant, which is where I got these clippings from after cleaning it up a bit, has been established and living out there successfully for years and years and years. And you can tell because it almost looks like a bonsai. That's how strong the wood is underneath, which is awesome. It kind of looks like some wizard tree, which I absolutely love. But I want it to have the best chance that it can. So I am absolutely going to be transplanting these into their own recyclable yogurt or whatever containers, and putting them in sunny spots, probably windowsills all over the place. And every day I'm going to make sure that their soil is moist and adding water to those who are thirsty. It's really important not to forget about these things. I know how easy it is to forget about things like this. And then you find it and it's like a carcass of the plant you were trying to create or save or whatever. And it's really heartbreaking. So let's try to avoid that. And now that we have that all established, my partner had seen a thing where if you take garlic and you just stick the bottom in water, it will start to root and grow. And boy, howdy, did it. I have not been as successful with starting from seed and then transplanting it outside. I just don't have that much experience with it. But with doing this type of thing, pretty awesome. And I'm sure this has happened to you and you've probably been like, ew, gross, and throwing it out. But if you're trying to grow a garden, how awesome would it be to grow your own garlic and stuff? So eventually you don't need to keep going to the store for things like this. You can tell there's different stages. I have added toothpicks, so it's not just sitting in water because you don't want it to rot. I mean, that's a really important part of gardening. But look how happy it is and ridiculous. So eventually, since it's already establishing really, really nice roots, so awesome. Every clove is its own new plant. I'm going to eventually then plant these in different spots and leave it for the season, because my partner and I were researching and we realized that if you want the best chance of growing your own, you don't just pull it out too soon. You want it to establish itself in the garden so it grows its own full thing of garlic, which is so good. And another benefit of growing garlic, there are certain pests that just cannot stand it. So it's really awesome if you spread this out throughout your garden, especially if you have things like strawberries or other things that are super susceptible to pests because they're so delicious. And like, I totally get it, pests, but not on my watch if I can help it. As I try to fortify things, this is one natural way of doing it. If for nothing else, when this starts to sprout and you add a little water to it and it roots, just plant it around. If you're not even gonna, try to harvest it, at least you can utilize the benefits of it being super obnoxious to pests that you don't want in the garden anyway. But I can't get over it. It's so much fun. We have so much fun here. Anyway, just a little Sam Explains the World quick tip. Taking the things that have sprouted in your kitchen and turning them into brand new plants, because why waste things, Thanks for stopping by. I really just wanted to give you an update of how the garlic is going. It's ridiculous. I swear it tripled overnight, one night, and now I don't even know, but super stoked to be getting a giant truckload of soil to be delivered in a couple days. And then we can fill our elevated beds and all of the garden beds all over the place and plant the remainder of my friends that I grew indoors during this winter that I've been sharing with you. I don't know who's more excited, me or my partner, to get all that space back that is taking up the deck currently that had been taking up half the kitchen. But I really, really recommend not throwing out your garlic or potatoes or onions if they start to, sprout, and seeing if you can turn it into new plants. These will get very specifically placed around the garden because pests hate them. It's garlic after all, and they're not just great for keeping vampires at bay, but all the other blood-sucking things that are really awful in the garden hate them as well. So garlic is your friend, including planting garlic with strawberries, which I will show you when we get the shipment of dirt and put the herd on the dirt, spread it across the garden, and start to plant things. That'll probably be an all-new episode, but just had to share because this is ridiculous, and all because of forgotten garlic clove. Gardening, it never ends, and it's the best. Do you remember the basil plant from many episodes ago? My partner picked out a basil at the grocery store that happened to be hydroponic, and I figured out a way to keep it happy. Yeah, it's still going strong. We utilize it a lot, and it's a beast. I've never had this much success, and it's all thanks to understanding that some plants need soil and some plants do not. It all depends on their origin story. So next time you go to the grocery store, if you happen to find a little thing of basil and or any other of the herbs and they say they're hydroponic, take a chance. Remember, you used a holiday cup that a good friend gave me. Thank you, good friend. I put holes in the bottom of it so the roots could come out, and we put it in this jar that it drinks so much, it's not even funny. I obviously need to add more water, which I'm about to do in a second once I stop recording. And it just is magnificent. And it smells so good. Sometimes I just like to, put your face right in it, We're adults, we can do what we want. And if I wanna smell my basil plant, I'll smell it however I want to, but it's so easy. And it was so cheap considering how long ago we got it and how much use so much mileage out of this one usually sad and then discarded basil plant from the grocery store. So it's amazing. Run out and get one today. I know a lot of the garden centers have basil plants too, which might be easier for you if you are afraid to just water it and are used to just putting things in dirt. That's up to you, but you can totally do this because you're awesome. Well, thank you for stopping by for this Sam Explains the World Snip Snip Hooray edition with your host, Samantha Bremenkamp. Hopefully you've picked up some tips that will help you become more of a green thumb at home, and or you've been entertained a little bit through this journey of gardening from indoors to outdoors, covering all sorts of things. Until next time, my friends, you're amazing.